It's your Thursday daily delivery. I am Michael Rand. Happy to be back for another day. Hope everybody is having a great day out there today. Hope you're in a better mood than Chris Finch was on Wednesday, at least during the game. I'm sure he was happy after the Wolves' victory. We're going to get to that in just a second here. He got ejected. First time in his career in Chris Hines' game story that Chris Finch has been ejected. Normally a much more mild-mannered head coach. I think he got his second and third technicals of the whole season in that game. The Wolves won. We'll get to that in a little bit here. Like I said, a wild victory here in a little bit. Velle E. Neal III joins me here in just a moment to talk all sorts of stuff. Vikings, Twins pitching, and whether the Wild can sustain long-term their high level of play without Kirill Kaprizov, who is, of course, going to miss some time with an injury. He's having surgery. So lots of good stuff from Velle. A Vikings thought at the end of the show as well. Maybe a little St. Thomas basketball, too, because they are red hot. First, though, what did I miss? Like I said, Wolves win again. Chris Finch ejected. Both of those are significant parts of the storyline, and I don't think they are mutually exclusive. We have found a saltier Chris Finch these last few days. Started Monday when, in his post-game comments following a closer than it needed to be win over a depleted Hawks team, Finchy took the team to task pretty well, said, hey, that's an unacceptable second half, communicated that to them, communicated that to fans through the media, things like that. Then apparently Wednesday got all over them in a pregame, earlier in the day film session. Nikhil Alexander-Walker saying that Chris Finch, what was the quote from him? He woke up choosing violence, which is great. Anthony Edwards said he was basically telling us, how much do you care about the game? We can't say we care about the game with all the stuff we watched. I definitely felt some type of way about it. I told my best buddy, Finchy got on my butt today, but he was right. Still, the message maybe wasn't being heeded entirely. In the early parts of the Phoenix game, Wolves were down double digits in the first half. Shots were not going down. The defensive intensity was decent, but they just weren't clicking. It was getting better in the third quarter, and Finchy was still upset. And he had already gotten a technical earlier in the game, and then he got another one in the midst of kind of talking to a referee. And Chris Hine, again, in his game story, it was an excellent game story. Go read it at Star Tribune or StarTribune.com. A source said, that Finch was basically like talking about the group of referees during a timeout or during an inbound play, and there was a referee right there, and he apparently called them bozos. Now, like, if that's the reason you're getting ejected from a game, calling referees bozos, that's the most like milquetoast, thing you can say, it seems like. But I guess that earned him an ejection. Wolves were down 72-70 at the time. They go on to win 121-113, and they took like as much as like a 16-point lead in the fourth quarter. Edwards was terrific in the second half, especially a couple of big dunks in the fourth quarter on fast breaks. Phoenix just sloppy. I was on Phoenix radio yesterday talking about the Wolves, talking about Phoenix's pursuit of Jimmy Butler. That was a fun one to talk about. Phoenix is just desperate right now. You can tell that all the pieces they have are not clicking together. Bradley Beal was the wrong third piece for them to try to build their championship dreams around. Wolves dispatched them in 4 games, sweep last year, if you'll recall, in last year's playoffs. And now here they go again, beating them on Phoenix's home court, beating them in a pretty important game. I mean, Wolves are now 26-21, Phoenix 24-22. Tiebreaker implications that West, like we've talked about so many times, so jammed up. That's going to be important. A 4th win in a row for the Wolves, which is significant. I feel like they've been stuck on 3-game winning streaks a lot this season, and they get tripped up trying to make it bigger. And now they have an opportunity to stretch that out. I'm not saying they have to have a long, sustained winning streak, but the possibility is out there for them if you look at their upcoming schedule. Huge opportunity but also some challenges because tonight they got to play a back-to-back against Utah, a team that is struggling, last place team in the West, 10-35. Can you muster up the collective energy and focus you need to win a game you should win? That is a big test for them because, again, this year, their attention has wandered, their focus has wandered, their ability to lock in on those games that they should win has wandered a lot more this year than it has last year. But if you win that game and go to 5 in a row, and again, not putting it in the bank yet, but 10-35, Utah, even on a back-to-back, Wolves have to feel good that if they play well, they have a good chance to win. Then they come home Saturday, play the Wizards. That's the worst team in the entire NBA, worst team in the East for sure. So you got that opportunity in front of you. And then after that, you've got the Kings at home. Kings are, a 500 team, a team you're battling in the West, but they're in a little bit of a disarray. They're maybe thinking still about trading De'Aaron Fox before the February 6th deadline. So you got an opportunity there. And then you're home against the Bulls who, are occupying the very final play-in spot in the East, 10th place in the East. But 10th place in the East is a 20-28 record. So those are 3 straight home games there. It gets harder after that. You got Rockets, Cavaliers not long after that, a couple games against the Thunder, 3 games against the Thunder, as it turns out, another one against the Rockets. So the end of February is going to be a very tough schedule. You got to bank as many wins as you can. You got to keep playing with an edge when you can. And I think that was mostly what the Finch stuff was about. I think he wanted to light a fire. I think he wanted to send a message. You can't play that card every single game. You can only play it every so often, but he chose to play it on Wednesday, and it seems to have worked. Mike Inori, assistant coach who coached, part of the playoffs last year, finished Game 4 in Phoenix last year after Mike Conley Jr. collided with Finch on the bench, injured him. Mike Inori was left to talk to the media after the game. Finch didn't do media. Here was what Mike Inori had to say about Finch getting ejected and the message he was maybe trying to send.
But I just think that Finch felt that we needed a little bit of a boost, and he was just fighting for our guys. And I mean, refereeing NBA games are always tough and this and that, but I just honestly feel that Finch was just fighting for our guys. He had got the tech earlier a little bit, and so he was on a little bit of a shorter leash. And when he picked that up, I just felt that really, gave a lot of energy to our group.
I saw him come over to you right before he got ejected. Did he say anything to you about that, or was it that he might get tossed?
No, not really. I just think that one thing Finchie has a great feel of, ever since I've been around him, is just a feel for the game, what the game needs, whether it be play calls, whether it be substitutions. And sometimes I think that I think he's had 3 techs the whole year, 2 of them tonight. And so I think that it was just one of those ones that he felt like it was a close game, just showing that he's standing up, fighting for our guys. And then they picked it up and brought it home.
And again, I like to see the urgency. I like it. Like I said, you can't do that every time. You can't, go into every game pressing those buttons. But you know what? They're 47 games into the season. They're 26-21. They've put together a 4-game winning streak, but a couple of those wins, the one against Dallas, the one against Atlanta, you can say, hey, the effort was, the attention span was drifting a little bit. Depleted teams, could you have put them away earlier, not have to expend so much energy? You want to make sure there's not slippage even in victories because all of these games are going to be massive. I like it. I think it was a good button to push. 35 games left in the regular season. Still plenty of time to get their act together on a bigger level. You got the trade deadline a week away. A lot of things swirling right now. A good time to try to put their best foot forward. And it sure looked like they did after Chris Finch was ejected on Wednesday night. Let's talk to Velle E. Neal III today, Star Tribune columnist. It is our weekly daily delivery debate. Velle, how are you?
I'm doing swell, sir. Hope all's well with you.
I'm good. Been busy. Back to winter, spring is busy, as you know. It's the convergence, the confluence of all the seasons of sports, things like that. But it gives us a lot to talk about. Number one, Velle, this week, Kirill Kaprizov injured, came back for, I think, 3 games after missing 12, now needs surgery. Don't know exactly how long he's going to be out, but they're saying reevaluated after 4 weeks, a month, something like that. So reevaluated after that means still could be some time after that. The Wild did reasonably well to weather the storm without him and some of these other guys. For these 12 games that he missed, I think they won 7 of them, which is very good. This time, though, once you get a guy back and you kind of got that relief or that kind of like mental load is lifted, and you're like, okay, now Kirill's back, the best player's back. Then he's out again. Are they cooked with this latest injury news, Lavelle?
I'm worried because I think the Wild have done a masterful job of trying to navigate through all this, with Kaprizov being out, other players being out, Zuccarello going down for a while, Spurgeon, Bordin, and Johansson aren't on a road trip right now. On this current trip, they've been doing fairly well until recently, and now they've had this weird run where they can't win at home. They're trying to find their game now. It comes and goes. I mean, they did beat the Blackhawks, but who doesn't? Although the Blackhawks won yesterday, I guess they had actually one of their best wins of the year. But I think a team can only hold things together for so long before just the stress of trying to compensate for key players or key positions being weakened, that you get the critical mass and you hit failure. And I think this is going to be the ultimate stress test for the Wild, knowing that Kirill's going to be out for a month, at least a month. We don't know if it may take a little bit longer than a month, right? Yeah. So, as I said, Brodin's injured. Johansson's injured. I'm sure they got some other players banged up, So they just don't have – I mean, their depth has been tested. Their ability to still find their game despite not having the best players have been tested. And I'm just worried that they're going to just crash under the weight of all these responsibilities foisted on guys who can't handle it. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen, but I'm thinking this may be the one that may send them spiraling. And fortunately, they bought some time at the beginning of the year with such a strong start. Right. So I'm not saying they're going to crash out of the playoffs, but I just think we're looking for a rough month of February for this team.
I think that's fair. I think, you look at the West and they're pretty firmly in the playoffs right now. They're pretty safe right now, but there are some underlying things that concern me. One, like if you went back to the start of the year, I didn't think they were going to be this good. So I think they've overachieved to this point, especially to weather the storm of these injuries that they've had. 2, you look at their goal differential. They're only a +3 on the year in goal differential. So you look at that.
Blowout losses.
Yes, a lot of blowout losses, but that does tell you something. It's like, when you win the close ones but lose the blowouts, your record maybe shows that you're a little bit better than you are. And I do think they're better than I thought they were. So I think we have to give them the benefit of the doubt. But I think it's concerning at this point. It would not surprise me if by the time Kaprizov is able to come back, whenever that is, maybe like we're talking about early to mid-March, like maybe that's a realistic timeline, like 6 weeks from now. Still season left, still playoffs left, and yes, you want to have him at 100% if you're ever going to have a chance to do anything in the playoffs. So this makes sense. I get it. I get why they're doing it, but they're going to find their position a lot more tenuous by the time he's back. I don't think they can expect to win 60% of their games like they did when he was out the first time.
Faber can't get hurt. Rossi can't get hurt. Boldy can't get hurt. I'll put Zuccarello in that group. Eck can't get hurt again. That core's got to stay healthy. John Merrill means well when he's on the ice, but when you start to need him on your second defensive pairing, that's a problem. Okay, so
is there a worse thing to say about someone than he means well? That is the ultimate backhanded compliment to a player. He means well. He tries. He's a good try.
We're going to put Faber in a hyperbaric chamber or freeze him between games here just to keep him healthy and upright. I don't know. Give him a rubber sweater to wear when he's on the ice. I don't know. They just can't. They just can't afford anybody else to drop out here. They got to try to find some continuity with the people they have.
I agree with that. We'll see. They've proven us wrong plenty so far this season.
That's the great thing about sports. You can do all the speculation. It's like the weather forecasters. they don't hit on 100% rate either. So
no, although I think they've gotten a lot better than we have. They have more data than we do.
And I learned from a wise old columnist in the Twin Cities that
no idea
if you either write or do a podcast when you make a bold statement and you're wrong, then you get another segment to apologize.
Yep, that's it. It's a full cycle. You just it's just more content for you if and when you're wrong. Number 2, Lavelle, is Brian Flores, Vikings defensive coordinator, ever going to get another head coaching opportunity? Because I really thought this was the cycle for him, and I think there's only one job open as of recording right now. That's the New Orleans job, and I've not seen him mentioned in conjunction with that. He's been a head coach before. He's done a great job as defensive coordinator here for 2 years. He's got, the Tua baggage of, what Tua said about him. And then there's obviously the lawsuit that might turn some teams away as well. When is his chance going to come, if ever? Because I thought this was the year if it was going to come.
I was thinking that if he had a chance to really get hired by someone, he would just drop the lawsuit and move forward. Okay, I still think there's a chance that he will be a head coach in the NFL. There's too many openings on a year-to-year basis, too many programs that are going to be needy of leadership. And, if people like Mike McCarthy can get respun through the ringer a couple times, then I think Flores can as well. Of course, McCarthy did win a Super Bowl. I have to remind myself of that. And Flores has not. But Dennis Allen had 2 shots. And look, he's blown both of them. I don't see why Flores can't get another opportunity as well. Yeah, he's going to have to answer to the Tua thing. But the one thing that everybody knows as soon as Flores walks through the door is that their defense is going to be rock solid. And it's up to him to find the right offensive guru to just take over the offense. Don't say anything to the quarterback ever. And just leave that side of the ball alone, and he will be okay. So he seems to be well respected. The Vikings have spoken lovingly of Flores and what he's meant to them. And, Josh Metellus has his career has taken off because Flores found a way to put him on the field at 5 or 6 different positions. You got cornerbacks that are about to make a lot of money because of Flores. Mm-hmm. So that is going to, that's positive things for his resume that will serve him well going forward. So I'm going to predict that Flores one day will return to the sidelines as a head coach in the NFL, not CFL, not USFL, XFL, but the NFL.
It's just dangerous because you got to strike while the iron's hot. They went 14-3 this season. And as much as we talk about Sam Darnold and what they did on offense, it was the defense that was the better side of the ball for the bulk of this season. I think we could say that about last year too, 2023. Obviously more injuries a year ago. You're going through the whole QB shuffle, but it was the defense until they just got decimated by injuries in the last few weeks of that year that really kept them alive. I mean, they were 7-6 at one point. They beat the Raiders 3-0 a couple of years ago.
They covered that game. That was the Ivan Pace game.
The what? The Ivan Pace game. That's right. The Ivan Pace game. We'll always remember it as the Ivan Pace game. So I think he deserves another chance. I think it's whatever is keeping him from getting it right now, and I think we enumerated some of those things, is, a boon to the Vikings. Obviously, if he would have gotten hired this cycle, I would have been concerned about 2025 because I still think they need another couple of years and need a better defensive kind of succession plan and build up the offense a little bit more to the point where they don't need all of the magic of a coordinator to be good on that side of the ball. So it's definitely a benefit to them.
Yeah, the challenge going forward, though, Mike, is that they may have to put together an entirely new secondary during the offseason, and that's going to be a challenge because Byron Murphy wants big money. I don't know if he's coming back. So then they're going to need 2 corners. 2. Now, there's a couple on the free agent market. I was looking, there's a Bruce Bowen at ESPN had the top 50 out, and I was checking it out today. There's a couple corners in the top 15 there that the Vikings may have to go after, but they also have to rebuild the interior of the offensive line. And 2, I think they still need another pass rusher on the other side there. But my thing, and once again, this is another feather in Flores' cap. After that Marcus Davenport disaster, when Kwesi foisted him on the defense and only to watch him break down and not want to play anymore.
Correct.
Flores went into Kwesi's office and says, I want Grenard, I want Van Ginkel. And then he didn't know much about Blake Cashman, but someone showed him tape. He's like, I can work with that. And he threw Cashman on the list. And Kwesi followed through, got those guys, and ended up being the backbone of the defense. So he's got an eye for defensive talent. And I do like the Vikings' chances better if they have to reshape that secondary if Flores is around to help pick the talent that's going to form the new nucleus of that secondary.
I agree with that. I wonder if his chance is ever going to come. He's going to have another year like this. Like I don't know what else he can prove defensively to get hired. Maybe it just takes another year removed from any of the other stuff that's been said about him or the concerns about him. But yeah, if he has another year like this and they are again successful, maybe next year will be his time. And who knows? Dude, he might be in a place. He's talked about how yes, he wants another shot, but also like he's got kids that are like kind of in that elementary school to middle school range, and being a defensive coordinator in the NFL is not like the world's greatest life work balance job, but it's better than being a head coach. Like he actually gets to spend a little bit more family time during the season, even if it's just a little bit more. I think maybe that matters to someone with kids in that kind of age range.
Yeah, you're right. It's a good setup too. And here's the other thing too. Durante Jones got a couple interviews to be a DC. And I always thought that he would be a candidate to replace Flores if Flores moved on. The Bears have identified their defensive coordinator as Dennis Allen, so it won't be Durante, but they did bring him in for an interview. So that's another thing to watch out for if that pops up here. And here's the thing, Mike, the cycle's not over because the desperate New Orleans Saints are still out there trying to find a head coach, and they also need coordinators as well. So there's still going to be some shuffling here, and that could affect the Vikings.
It could. That's a very good point. It could. And good point about Jones. That could be part of a succession plan here at some point. Last subject, Lavelle. I talked to Bobby Nightingale Jr. for Wednesday's podcast. He still seems to think that if the Twins are going to make a trade, and he thinks they probably will, the most likely candidate is Chris Paddock, the starting pitcher, due to make, I think, $7.5 million in 2025. That to me seems logical from a salary standpoint, but it also seems risky from a starting pitching depth standpoint. And we saw what happened when he was injured last year and Joe Ryan was injured. The Twins seem to think they have a lot of starting pitching depth if they are willing to consider a Paddock trade. Are they correct to be so optimistic about their starting pitching depth?
We do not know what Chris Paddock is as a starter. We saw glimpses late in the 2023 season, and we didn't see much in the 2024 season because he broke down again. If Falvey can find someone to trade for Chris Paddock, I'd be very impressed, because if I'm a team looking from the outside in, I'm like, I'm not going to touch that guy. He's had multiple surgeries, and he hasn't stayed on the field much in the last recently. So I think that without Paddock, the Twins have a very solid pitching staff. And there are rankings, too. There's been some preseason rankings. Projected ERA plus has the Twins tied for the second highest ERA plus in the major leagues this year.
Second best,
for what it's worth. I think they also have been ranked in the top 10 of starting rotations.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. In terms of projected WAR, I believe they're in the top 10.
Okay.
So there's a couple rankings out there that reflects favorably of what the Twins have. I was encouraged by David Festa. I was encouraged not as much by Festa, but a little bit by Zebby Matthews. They were brought into a very difficult situation, trying to pitch a team that's in the playoff race and all of a sudden not knowing how to score any runs. Especially young guys have not built up arm endurance like veterans have. So Rocco had to pull those guys after 4 or 5 innings, but they showed flashes of what they can do. I like their upside. I like what Simeon Woods Richardson has done. Joe Ryan is healthy, and he's going to be on the natural progression in spring training. So now you have Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, and Bailey Ober. Yeah. That is a very solid 3.
I agree with that.
1-2-3 punch. Then you got Simeon at 4, which is a good spot for him. And then you've got Festa and Zebi and whoever else competing for the 5th spot. There's a guy who hasn't debuted yet that people think highly of, and the Twins were asked about him frequently before the last deadline, and the right-hander named Andrew Morris, who would be at AAA. So there's going to be a couple other guys. The pitching pipeline looks like it's starting to produce here a little bit. And I like how the rotation sets up. If Stewart, what's Stewart's first name? Brock Stewart can stay on the field. I like how the bullpen looks. Griffin Jacks is back, and he's decided to become a reliever. I mean, to stick as a reliever. Yes. Cole Sands is on the Griffin Jacks development plan. Okay. As we saw last year, he had a pretty solid year. You got Louis Varland, who probably will work out of the bullpen as well. I think so. I would stretch him out in spring training, though, just for depth. But he could end up in the bullpen. So this pitcher staff looks, and it's not like it can be good. I think it is good. I think it's above average. Okay. But that's a big part of the equation for a team here. If this doggone daily offense can stay healthy, they will produce runs. But when you have a solid pitching staff, that's half the battle because that covers up deficiencies elsewhere.
I'm still concerned. I like the way you laid it out, and talking to Bobby too this week made me less concerned or less pessimistic, I guess. I think I'm just carrying a natural pessimism into this season because of how last year ended, and I feel like we're putting a lot of stock into a small, okay-ish sample size for a lot of these young pitchers and expecting that now.
Plus, they didn't add a major leaguer yet. They haven't added a major leaguer yet during the offseason.
No, nothing. So like all they've done is subtract, and if you subtract Paddock too, again, I agree. I don't think we know what he is. He's barely given them anything. But he's a whatever you think of known commodities and things like that. Like he is a known commodity. So the thought of them trading away pitching depth, known commodities makes me a little leery of kind of what the plan is. But I'm willing to be proven wrong. It's happened before, just once or twice. It's happened before though.
Another pitcher too, because I walked past him at Twins Fest. I said, "Who is this guy?" And then when he walked past me, I turned behind and looked, and it said Topa. I was like, "Oh, that's what Justin Topa looks like," So he's still around as well. So
the fruits of the Jorge Polanco trade. It's a long blooming plant, I guess.
I will say this too. I know this is kind of off the subject that we're on, but ladies and gentlemen, Twins fans, Walker Jenkins is put together. Okay. Oh my God, he is 6'4" and he is strapping. Okay. I am very, very impressed with the man's physique. When I saw him in the visitors clubhouse at Twins Fest, I was like, "Good Lord!" And no, I did not see him come out of a shower. This is when he was in regular street clothes. Wow. Right? So don't jump to conclusions here based on what I'm saying. But
I'm not sure if I'm happy you clarified that or not. But but you clarified it. So.
He is put together. And Emmanuel Rodriguez, he is short. I don't even think he's 5'11". Okay. So that's a little bit concerning. But Walker Jenkins, it was very impressive. And if you go to Parker Hageman on X/Twitter, did a side-by-side video comparison of Walker Jenkins and Joe Mauer. Their swings are very much alike.
Ooh, wow.
Jenkins looks like a little bit more of a stronger follow-through. So I'm not saying he's going to hit the left center for his entire career, but the swing looked very familiar.
Okay. Well, you're filling the space with optimism, Lavelle. But it's a good time of year for optimism. I would love if they made a major league signing, as it would a lot of people. But there is still time for that. We always tell ourselves be patient, and then every year I lose patience. So I understand that there's that. Awesome, good stuff as usual, Lavelle. Be well, and we'll do this again next week.
Yes, we will. Take care.
Watch your dreams and savings grow with Royal Credit Union's 4.25% annual percentage yield 12-month certificate. Open now at any Royal office or online at rcu.org/certificate saver. Early withdrawal penalties could reduce earnings and principal. APY accurate as of 2/1/25. Insured by NCUA.
Great stuff from Lavelle. As always, appreciate him joining me every week for the Daily Delivery Debate. We, of course, record that a little bit in advance. We knew the Wild would be playing Wednesday night, even though we were recording that segment about long term, can they sustain a high level of play without Kirill Kaprizov? They played a game in Toronto last night. Good first effort, good first, kind of reckoning for the post-Kaprizov, injury era. They're trying to sustain a high level of play, hope to get him back, a little bit later this season, maybe 4 to 6 weeks from now, after he has his surgery and recovers, get him back. They won 3-1. Toronto's not an easy place to win. Toronto's a good team this season. The Wild have been a good team this season, but even they have admitted they have been slipping a little bit in recent weeks, even though they've gotten some okay results. They're going to have to tighten up every aspect of their game if they are going to survive at least a month without Kirill Kaprizov. 3-1 is kind of their model score, I would say. Gustafsson was terrific in net. They got enough offense to kind of shut down Toronto, have a road victory. That is their formula. They've been great on the road this season. They've been good when they get, good energy, good skating, and good goaltending. That is, they've got some firepower, but without Kaprizov, you're not going to try to win these games 5-3, 6-4. I think 3-1 and 4-2 are much better scores for them right now, generally for their style of play and for their personnel. Looked good on Wednesday, so we'll see, like Lavelle and I talked about, can they sustain that over a month to stay in the mix, stay in the race, and then hopefully, you get that injection of talent and skill back when Kaprizov is indeed healthy. Let's finish with the cooler. One other thing Lavelle and I talked about, of course, was Brian Flores, where he stands in this coaching cycle. We talked about that a little bit, too, on the Wednesday Access Vikings podcast with Andrew Kramer and Emily Leiker. Go listen to that as well. One of the big things we talked about on that episode of Access Vikings was free agency, where the Vikings free agents stand in the market, what they might be looking to get contract-wise, how likely it is that the Vikings re-sign guys like Aaron Jones, Byron Murphy, and of course the big one, Sam Darnold. Where does he stand in all this? He's a lot of those guys are top of their class or near the top of their class in terms of positionality, free agency. Who's the best quarterback on the market? Sam Darnold by far. Who is the best running back? ESPN says it's Aaron Jones. So a lot to sort out in free agency. We talked about that a lot on Access Vikings. So go give that a listen. Certainly we'll have more to say about that in the coming weeks, months. It's a long haul. This NFL offseason doesn't seem like it ends. They want it that way, but it does not seem like it ends. Also, one more shout out, St. Thomas men's basketball, 10th straight home win. They beat Oral Roberts. They are now in a tie for first place in the Summit League, 7-1 in conference play because Omaha lost last night to South Dakota. So setting up for some pretty big moments for St. Thomas down the stretch. They're having a tremendous season, 17-6 overall. I got to go check out a game. I haven't made it over there this season. Got to go check out a game. I think that's a fun product out there right now. I want to go see that. So another shout out to them because they are having, like I said, a tremendous season, 7-1 now in Summit League play. That will do it for me today. Randy Johnson from the Star Tribune should join me on Friday for some college hockey talk, maybe a little Gophers football off-season talk as well. Until then, I am Michael Rand. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Back at it again tomorrow.